Hello and welcome to Candidates on the Clock, sponsored by the Newton County Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Lanier Sims. Today we're joined by Brett Mauldin, that's running for Georgia State Senate, District 17. Mr. Mauldin, could you take a couple minutes and tell the citizens a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. So, born and raised in Georgia. The only time I left Georgia was when I went to college outside of the state at a small Christian school where I played rugby. We joke around and say it was because I wasn't smart enough to keep a helmet on, right, playing football. I'm a father of three, married my college sweetheart. We've been married for since 2006. I own a small business where I have been running in construction business. Been working there since I was 11 because there's no child labor laws when it's your kid. So been able to sacrifice quite a bit to run a business. I know what it's like to sign the front of a check instead of just the back of a check, and how to run a business and sacrifice for a lot of families. Eat before your family eats when you run a small business. But we just feel that we need a lot more strong leadership, and that's the reason that I decided to run for political office.
Okay, thank you. As you're aware, we had citizens to submit questions, so we're just going to jump right into a few questions that the citizens have submitted, not only pertaining to Newton County, but to your entire district.
Sure.
First question, what's your view, or are you willing to support legislation to offer nonpartisan local elections?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that a lot of times we focus so much into a political party that we lose track of who we're trying to serve, right? So if you take away political parties in certain races, I think that it helps get the best candidate instead of whether they have a R or a D next to their name. You know, I heard a guy say one time that some people get their head stuck so far up their politics they forget to serve. You know, so I think that in a lot of cases it would be best to take away the label of Republican or Democrat in the race to make sure that we have the best representation for the district.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, we're going to talk a little bit about the redistricting process. The question is, would you support legislation to remove politics from the redistricting process by using either automation or appointed boards, just to remove that partisan interest from that whole process?
I mean, that would have to be something I would look into more. The whole reason for redistricting is because they want to have the right number of constituents in each district. So the way it's gone about, I know a lot of times there's questions about gerrymandering and whatnot. So I would be willing to listen to the arguments for it and see if it made the most sense. Because when it's all said and done, there's no perfect way to do anything, right? It's the way that is the best for the people that you represent. So I would be willing to listen to it, but I don't know that I could say right now that there's any way a lot better than how we're doing it now, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, what's your view on the expansion of Medicare and Medicaid in the state of Georgia?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that when we go back and we look at Obamacare, I know personally our insurance was 5 times what it used to be for our family. I want to hope that it came from a good place where they were bringing it about. But when you force anything on people, I think that there's a lot of negative outcomes to it, right? When we had this new bill that came through, it's House Bill 1013, is the largest expansion of Obamacare in state history. But with that, there were certain negatives that came along with it, like there's certain red flag laws where they can come in and take your guns, right? I'm completely against that, right? That's our Second Amendment for a reason. You shouldn't have your guns taken from you. But anytime you force one thing, there's a reaction to it. I don't like the way that it went down. It was a huge cost on the taxpayers. But we do need more affordable insurance for people. But there was a negative, like I said, 5 times the cost of my insurance premiums. There's got to be a better way than what we're doing it, and taking down and letting insurance organizations and companies go across state lines to be able to drive the price down, I think would be something that would be very beneficial to all involved.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what's your view, or would you support an increase in state minimum wage?
So I'm of the mindset that the more valuable somebody is in the marketplace, the easier it is for them to find new jobs, right, and better paying jobs. Whenever you mandate anything, I think that takes away the freedoms, right? So we don't own anybody. In my business, I look at it, I don't start anywhere near minimum wage for my team members because I'm not going to get the best team members. They're going to cost me more headaches than what they can benefit us, right? So it's one big team. We're working together. So I would not support a minimum wage increase, but I think we need to do a better job at a high school level, not just pushing college. We need to be pushing the career avenue because there's a lot of people like my father. He didn't go to college, right? He went straight into the business arena, but he had skills that were marketable. By doing that, he bettered himself along the way and started a company in construction. He found mentors. He read books. He did stuff to better himself that didn't cost him money, was able to add more to the marketplace, and his value increased, right? So because we don't own anybody and they can go anywhere they want to in a free market society, I think that we need to make sure that people understand their value is more than minimum wage. Because minimum wage, even if you increase it to $15, all that's going to do is pass it along to the next person, because cost of goods are going to rise. And that if you have it from $7.50, $8.50, all the way up to $15, $20 an hour as your minimum wage, that $20 won't give you the buying power that $20 used to. So anytime you bring up the lowest wage amount, it ends up costing them more money in the long run. So I think we need to do a better job of showing people their value and teaching them more marketable skills so that they demand more in the marketplace more than minimum wage.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about economic development. As Rivian is slated to make Social Circle its new headquarters, what do you think needs to be done to prepare your constituents for the Rivian arrival?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there was very little preparation that went through with the constituents. There was a lot of lack of transparency. And, I think it caught everybody off guard, right? I get that the Joint Development Authority was there to bring business to the area. But anytime you bring something of that scale, one of the largest companies in the United States decided to come to Rutledge Social Circle area, where a lot of those people were wanting to, they love the rural country feel. I don't think that there's anything that we can do to that area to prepare them for this large scale of a company to be coming to this district. The way that it was more or less dumped in their laps was a travesty, right? And it's not about Rivian. I tell people all the time, the whole situation was not about Rivian, right? Because they were wanting to bring something to the area, right? It's about the lack of transparency in government in general, right? So to say that I'm very pro-business, I'm for business, but it has to be sustainable business. When you look at companies like Home Depot that started in Georgia, they weren't given all these subsidies and all these other incentives. They grew organically and had a valuable thing to bring to the marketplace. And because of that, they grew and grew and grew. The fact that we're paying over the next 20, 25 years over $1 billion of taxpayer money to bring companies in here, I think it's a slap in the face to large companies like Home Depot that grew on their own efforts and stood by themselves. I know that doesn't straight up answer your question, but the whole situation was less than desirable in my opinion on how it went down.
Okay, thank you. Next question, let's talk a little bit about income taxes. And the question is, would you support or what's your view on eliminating state income tax?
Absolutely. So I do business all over the Southeast for my company, and I go to Florida, I go to Tennessee. These people have no state income tax. So especially right now with inflation, right? But before the inflation started skyrocketing, we need to put more money in people's pockets, and they get to determine where their money goes. If they want to spend it, right, then they can spend it. If they don't want to, they get to keep it, right? But I think that overall, the government does a poor job with our tax dollars. So why would we want to give them more, right? When we're sending so much money overseas and so much waste in our government, I think that by keeping more of it away from them, we actually do better as a society. Because when we're giving so much money overseas and giving money, all this other money to all these other programs, when we're giving so much money away, then we're taking too much money. So I would 100% sponsor, co-sponsor, whatever they would allow me to do to eliminate the state income tax and put more money in the average everyday person's pocket.
Okay, thank you. Historically, none of the local delegation lives inside of Newton County. What would you do to make more attempts for appearances, planning for upcoming legislative sessions, and general presence inside of the county?
Absolutely. So our district is made up of 4 counties. My plan is once a quarter, I'm going to be in each different district for make sure that we have open sessions where people can vent, can talk. But as a leader, you can't micromanage every situation, right? If the constituents in a district voted for a county commission or voted for a city council, I think that you need to make sure that you're dealing with each county and seeing what they need, because each one of the counties in our district is so different, right? Even in certain counties, one side of the county is different than the other side of the county, right? Our precincts are completely polar opposites. But if you sit down and you listen to the elected officials and you give them opportunities to succeed, listening to their constituents, because if they don't listen to their constituents, they're going to get voted out as well. But I'm of the mindset that you listen to the elected officials, you listen to the people that are in your district, see what they need, because if you sit there under the gold dome and you're only focused, and it's an echo chamber up there, they all share the same ideas, they high-five in the hallways, right? But they're failing to listen to the people on the streets and the communities doing the work needed. So we need to focus on listening to the constituents through open sessions, right? But we also need to make sure that we're listening to the constituents through their elected officials in the county. If you do that properly, a lot of the situations would take care of themselves. So that would be my focus, is that actually communicating, listening, and being able to have open dialogue.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, what are the challenges facing your district that must be addressed in the next 4 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I look at the district, like I said earlier, it's a very different dynamic. I mean, you look at certain areas of Newton County, right, that want growth, and there's certain areas outside of the Covington area that want to be left more rural. So there's a delicate balance when you're looking at how can you serve the community and be able to preserve their desired lifestyle the best you can. There's also, I was talking to some people in Mansfield. They want higher speed internet, okay? And that's a great thing. We need better access to it, especially when we had the COVID lockdowns and people are doing education remotely. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to focus on how can we make sure we make that more readily available with internet, better access to educational remote learning in case that ever happens again. But the other side of the coin on that is there's certain larger businesses that have stayed out of those areas because they didn't have access to high-speed internet. So there's a delicate balance of which side do you want to focus on, right? If you want the high-speed internet, understand that there's businesses that could come in and buy tracts of land to build on. Now, I'm not talking about 2,000 acres. I'm talking about, 5, 10, 15 acres. And we need that kind of development anyway, right? That's sustainable small business growth. But there is, it's a double-edged sword when you're dealing with that. So that's just one example I can think of. But, like I said, we represent 4 counties. So I want to get with the county commissioners. I want to get with the constituents for the district and see what they're actually wanting, how we can best facilitate that. And you're never going to make everybody happy. It's about, how do you make the majority of people happy and what's best for the majority.
Okay, thank you. Our last question, what makes you more qualified to hold state senate than the current incumbent?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that people are sick and tired of the establishment style, right? They are not wanting somebody who is getting up there that has desires to be governor, to be lieutenant governor. I just want to serve. I'm not doing this for power. I tell people I know who I am in Jesus Christ, right? I'm not doing it for money. It pays $17,000 a year. If you're getting rich off a $17,000 a year job, you're doing it the wrong way, right? I just honestly have been sick and tired of politicians who are looking after their own special interests and have not been serving their district, and they tell you what you want to hear and do something completely different. We are doing this as a ministry approach. I want to get in and serve the way our founding fathers set it up. You serve and you get out. You have new ideas coming, fresh ideas coming. You shouldn't get in there and serve for 20, 30 years, 10 years. My honest opinion is 8 years is enough. If that's the amount you can do as a president, it should be the max you should do in other offices besides the Senate, because it's a 6-year term at the federal level. But I think that when you're looking at it, you need somebody that has leadership, that has led in every aspect of their life, that is focused on other people. When you help get enough people where they want to be in life, eventually you'll get where you want to be in life. When it's all said and done, we have a heart issue in this country, and there's too much infighting. So we need somebody that can bring people together and not be divisive, right? We need somebody who has a history of being able to do that in business, in sports arenas. But, I would say that the main defining thing for us is I'm willing to stand up and fight when you need somebody to stand up and fight, regardless if I'm the only one standing up there and fighting.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for answering all the top questions that were submitted by our citizens. At this time, could you close us out with any further information about you or your campaign, and how can the citizens get in touch with you?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, one of our biggest things that we focus on is transparency. There should be transparency in every aspect of government. I, like a lot of people, want to trust the government, but they've failed to allow us to do that by lying to us repeatedly, by wasting our tax dollars. I think that with situations like Rivian, like we talked about, we need more transparency in government. We need to take down barriers and the veiled truths that we're getting. I think that we need less government and lower taxes. When it's all said and done, most people just want to be left alone. That was my goal. I wanted to work hard, spend time with my family and friends, and go to church, and I would have been happy. But one of the things that I hear everywhere we go, whether it's Republicans or Democrats I'm talking to, there's lack of trust in our election process. We need more election integrity. People will say it's because the politicians I was talking to, they said, well, we didn't want to do a forensic audit because the cost on the taxpayers. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd because y'all are spending $100 million to bring Rivian in this year in the budget. When I look at it, if we lose faith in our election process, we lose faith in everything as our country. Right? There's lack of trust right now with government. How do we do that? I think there needs to be more election integrity. Now, so to find out more about us, you can go to votebrettmauldin.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Brett Mauldin for State Senate. We would appreciate your support, and we look forward to being able to serve you in the future.